and in health to other people in his constituency, and we are very proud of what he does. And I know that both the speakers this afternoon are passionately committed to building on the National Health Service's successes by creating the new personal rights and guarantees that we have promised. Having invested heavily in cancer services, the right to see a specialist within 2 weeks, and for diagnosis within 1 week, where we would like to have all party support that wasn't forthcoming this afternoon in the answer of the Leader of the Opposition. Indeed, I heard a speech by the Leader of the Opposition a few days ago, on exactly the same day that he was withdrawing from his cast iron commitment on Europe. What did he say, Mr. Speaker, about the National Health Service? What did he say? Which must make people very worried. He said on the same day to the Royal College of Pathologists, my cast iron determination to improve the National Health Service. Now, Mr. Speaker, people should worry indeed when they hear that being said. Now, Mr. Speaker, a social care bill that will ease the anxieties and give new rights to thousands of elderly people. The first ever digital economy bill. The first ever legislation to abolish child poverty. The second historic climate change and energy bill. For pupils, the first guarantee to catch up tuition, making parents also responsible for antisocial behaviour of their children, an equality bill, banning cluster bonds, a draft bill to legislate for the 0.7% development target, action on bank bonuses, regulations so that agency workers are never again denied the rights other workers have. When we propose these measures, we are speaking up not in the party interest, but in the national interest. We are responding to new national needs, social care, climate change, economic restructuring, high levels of education, standing up for Britain. And I say the one party that had the policies to take the right decisions to deal with the recession is the one party that has the policies to build a long-term recovery. In fact, we are the only party with policies to build a long-term recovery in this. Now, I'll give way in a minute. Mr. Speaker, he has promised, I hear, to support some of the bills, but let me thank him for that. But let me also tell him, promises from the Conservative Party, guarantees from the Conservative Party, particularly cast iron guarantees from the Conservative Party, are not what they used to be.
There are, of course, some good measures in the Queen's speech, but there wasn't a single word about housing. Can I ask the Prime Minister why, after 10 years, when wages have gone up by a third, but house prices by 150%, and the number of people waiting for social housing is now worse than at any decade since the 40s, there was nothing that shows the sort of commitment people would have expected from a Labour government to meet the massive housing crisis in every constituency in Britain.
And it's because we announced in July new measures to put £1.2 billion into social housing and into building new houses. And we gave local authorities the power to be able to build houses again. And at the same time, we said we would build new social housing to rent for people in this country. And I have to tell them, in the first 10 years, we modernised 2 million houses in this country, repairing and refurbishing them for the new generation. Now we have to build new houses, and we have committed ourselves to doing so. And that was the statement that was made in July to move the housing programme forward.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful to the Prime Minister. He is proposing a bill to cut public spending by between 6 and 7% of GDP over, I believe, a 4-year period. What are the main ways that he would recommend that we do that?
The first thing is we have raised the top rate of tax. And I haven't heard the opposition party saying that they will support us in this cause. Perhaps the Leader of the Opposition will indicate that he will support us. We have taken action to remove the tax reliefs for pensions. We have taken action to raise national insurance by 0.5% from next year. So we have taken the action that is necessary to cut the deficit in half over the next few years. I don't think that we have seen the similar announcements made by the Right Honourable member opposite. I want to talk about the economy and about...
I'm grateful to the Prime Minister. Would he say, with the benefit of hindsight, given the world recession, that there was too much intervention and too much regulation, particularly in the financial services sector, that government was too big? Or would you say that there was too little regulation and too little intervention in that sector?
Mr. Speaker, for 12 years, the Conservative Party asked us to deregulate. they asked us to have less regulation. They opposed the Financial Services Authority. They wanted us to deregulate. I believe that the answer that we have got to take from the crisis of the last few years is that we have got to have global supervision of our financial institutions, and that's what I want to talk about today. Last year, we were prepared to take unprecedented action to support our banking system. We nationalised Northern Rock. We took action to buy shares in RBS and Lloyds TSB. We took action to underpin the whole banking system with emergency legislation that was repeated throughout the world. And let us be clear, the banking sector is vital to the future of our country, helping supply the money that is needed for homes, businesses, investments, and protecting savings. But the banks and the financial institutions must understand that a return to their old ways is impossible. And our financial services bill that we are publishing in the next few days will ensure that the salaries and bonuses paid to bankers are now consistent with effective management of risk, consistent with the rules set out by the Financial Stability Board internationally, and fair to the general public of the United Kingdom. And our bill will automatically make any remuneration contract that contravenes the rules void and nullified. I don't know whether the question is about the European Union, but I rather suspect it is so. But his argument is not with me, it's with the Leader of the Opposition.
My argument is emphatically with the Prime Minister, because he's responsible for this policy. How does he think he's going to improve the financial regulation of the city and the opportunity to improve the economy of this country and to maintain the gross domestic product by handing over the whole arrangement to majority voting and to ensure that the ultimate decisions are taken by countries such as France and Germany, who do not actually have our interests at heart?
See, Mr. Speaker, they're back to the old ways. The Conservative Party cannot stop arguing about Europe. And far from the Leader of the Opposition being able to hold his party together, they are rent asunder by the very issue of European Union. Now, Mr. Speaker, the financial services, Mr. Speaker, this is the Leader of Opposition who gave a cast iron commitment for a referendum and then tore it up on one day, much to the chagrin of the member opposite. Mr. Speaker, the Financial Services Bill, they don't like hearing about what we've got to do, will allow us to require companies to publish for the first time the remuneration of their most senior executives. It will give us the powers to reform the running and boards of banks, not least where there have been potential conflicts of interest. In the last few weeks, we've removed 300 billion of potential liabilities on the government. And let me state that when the pre-budget report comes in December, we expect there will be a reduction in the debt that we have to write off because of the banks. I've said before that when the crisis is over, it will not be the public that have paid money to the banks, it will be the banks repaying money to the public of this country. And I will continue to argue for globally coordinated financial action, whether through an insurance premium, contingent capital, resolution funds, or a global financial levy. There has to be a new contract of trust between the banks and the society they serve, and I hope that all opposition parties will support the need for that action at a global level. Now, we are the government that was the first to act on restructuring our banks, the government that took action on Northern Rock, that recognised we had a problem of capitalisation and liquidity, that delivered a fiscal stimulus, that delivered help to the unemployed, the government that worked with Europe to tackle recession. Not one of these measures was supported by the opposition party. And now, Mr. Speaker, I hope they will support us this time when we move further to improve our economy. Because this Queen's speech is also about removing the fear of unemployment for thousands of workers and their families. It's about creating thousands of new employment opportunities for young people now and into the future. It's about securing our future by building stronger manufacturing and service industries for the long term. Low inflation environment, it is right to say that as a nation we will go for growth. We will maintain the fiscal stimulus until the economy is strong enough to withdraw it. And for that we have the support of every other country in Europe and every major economy of the world. But we will also do more to equip ourselves for the future. The legislation we announced today will create new jobs so that Britain can have high levels of employment in the years to come. The Energy Bill promotes clean coal, offers financial support for carbon capture and storage projects, and makes Britain a vital leader in this new technology. And over time, we believe that the measures in this bill could create between 30,000 and 60,000 jobs. We expect over the next 5 or 6 years the number of people employed in the low-carbon in environmental goods and services sector